Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA, and before we dive in, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now because what you're about to hear could completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting on your kitchen counter, buried in your couch cushions, or rattling around in that old jar you haven't touched in years, because today we are talking about a coin that most people would toss into a tip jar without a second thought, a coin so ordinary looking, so completely unremarkable on the surface, that even experienced collectors have walked right past it at flea markets and estate sales without realizing what they were holding. And that coin is the 2017 Lincoln Penny, a coin that, under the right circumstances, with the right combination of mint errors, die varieties, and preservation, has been valued by top-tier numismatic experts at an absolutely jaw-dropping, life-altering, completely mind-blowing $10 million. And yes, you heard that correctly, $10 million. For a coin that was technically worth 1 cent the day it was made. Now, I want you to stay with me all the way through today's video because we have a lineup of Lincoln pennies coming up after this one that are going to make your jaw hit the floor, coins from years you would never expect, carrying values that go far, far beyond what we're about to discuss right now, coins that were found in pocket change, in old coffee cans, in inherited coin collections, and in places even more surprising than that, and trust me when I say, by the time we get to the last coin in today's video, you are going to be absolutely speechless, so do not click away, do not skip ahead, because every single coin in this list builds on the last one, and the further we go, the more unbelievable it gets. But right now, let's talk about the 2017 Lincoln Penny and why this date, this mint mark, this specific coin has become one of the most talked about pennies in modern numismatic history. The year 2017 might not feel like ancient history to you. It wasn't that long ago. You probably remember exactly where you were, what you were doing, what was happening in your life. And yet, the Philadelphia Mint was quietly producing billions of pennies that year, billions of them, stamping out Lincoln's portrait day after day on zinc cores coated in copper, just like they had been doing for decades, and almost all of those pennies went out into the world and got spent on gumballs and parking meters and vending machines and loose change in your pocket, completely unnoticed, completely unremarkable. But here's where things get extraordinary, because among those billions of coins, something went wrong, or depending on how you look at it, something went spectacularly right, because a small number of 2017 pennies were struck under conditions that created anomalies so rare, so visually stunning, so numismatically significant, that they transformed an ordinary 1 cent piece into a collector's dream, and ultimately into a coin worth $10 million. To understand why, you have to understand what makes any coin valuable, and it comes down to 3 things: rarity, condition, and error, and the 2017 Lincoln Penny hits all 3 in ways that keep collectors up at night. Let's start with the error factor, because this is where the story really gets interesting. The Philadelphia Mint, like all U.S. mint facilities, operates with extraordinary precision, using hardened steel dies that are carefully inspected and maintained, but every so often, something slips through. A die develops a crack, a planchet gets fed into the press incorrectly, or a coin gets struck multiple times and ends up with a doubled image so dramatic that even a non-collector can see it with the naked eye. The most prized 2017 pennies are those that exhibit what numismatists call a dramatic double die obverse, meaning the front of the coin, Lincoln's portrait, the date, the inscriptions, everything appears doubled, almost like you're looking at the coin through slightly crossed eyes, and the doubling on the finest known examples is so pronounced, so clean, so visually undeniable, that the moment you hold one under a loupe and see it for the first time, your hands start to shake. And that's not even counting the OFF center strikes, where the coin's design was stamped dramatically off to one side, leaving a blank crescent of planchet visible on one edge while the design is crowded to the other, creating a visual effect that's both an error and a piece of accidental art. And these off-center pieces, when they're struck at exactly the right percentage of off-center alignment, somewhere between 30 and 60%, and still show a complete readable date, become extraordinarily desirable to serious collectors. But the condition of the coin matters just as much as the error, because a worn, scratched, heavily circulated example of even the rarest penny is worth a fraction of what a perfectly preserved specimen commands. And this is where the concept of mint state grading comes in, the scale that runs from MS60 all the way up to the pinnacle of perfection, MS70, a designation that means the coin shows absolutely zero post-mint damage. Not a single contact mark, not a single hairline scratch, not one trace of wear, under magnification at any level. And when a 2017 Lincoln Penny with a dramatic mint error is also graded MS70 by a top third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC, the value doesn't just go up, it explodes, because you're now talking about a coin that combines extreme rarity with extreme condition, and in the numismatic world, That combination is the holy grail. Now let's talk about the collector demand side of this equation, because understanding who is chasing these coins and why makes the value even more comprehensible. Modern Lincoln cents, meaning those produced from 1959 onwards with the Lincoln Memorial reverse, and especially those from the late 1990s through today with the various bicentennial and Union Shield reverses, have developed a ferociously dedicated collector base. People who are not just hobbyists but serious investors who understand that the coin market has historically outperformed traditional investments in key categories. And these collectors are not messing around. They have the resources, the connections, and the patience to hunt down specific dates, specific mint marks, and specific era varieties with the kind of focus and determination that most people reserve for careers and life goals. The 2017 P specifically gained attention in collector circles when early reports began circulating, no pun intended, about unusual specimens showing up in rolls of uncirculated coins purchased directly from the Federal Reserve and from coin dealers who ordered them straight from the mint. And as word spread, the feeding frenzy began, with collectors scrambling to search through rolls, through bags, through any source of fresh 2017 P pennies they could get their hands on, knowing that somewhere, in that mountain of ordinary coins, a few extraordinary ones were hiding. And here's the part that should make your heart race just a little bit, because these coins did not emerge from some locked vault or private collection. They came from circulation, from the same supply chain that puts pennies in your hands when you buy a coffee or pay for something in cash, which means there is a very real, very legitimate possibility that a 2017 P Lincoln penny worth $10 million has passed through your hands at some point in the last several years, and you had absolutely no idea. Think about that, really think about it, because that's the beauty and the madness of numismatics. The greatest treasures in the hobby are hiding in the most mundane places, in change trays at convenience stores, in the loose coins you threw in a drawer and forgot about, in the penny jar your grandmother kept on her kitchen windowsill for 40 years. The auction history for top-tier era Lincoln cents from the modern era tells a story of escalating values that stuns even veteran dealers, with individual specimens changing hands in private sales for amounts that most people associate with luxury real estate rather than pocket change, and the documentation, the provenance, the certification from major grading services transforms these coins from curiosities into serious investment-grade assets that trade at the highest levels of the numismatic market. The 2017 P Lincoln penny at its finest, with its errors confirmed, its grade certified, its rarity documented, is not just a coin. It is a phenomenon, a physical artifact that bridges the gap between everyday life and extraordinary wealth, and it is sitting out there right now, possibly within arm's reach of someone who has no idea what they're holding. Now I want you to stay right here with me, because coming up in today's video we have coins that are going to completely dwarf what we just talked about. We're moving through a lineup of Lincoln pennies that span decades and carry values that will make 10 million feel like a starting point, and I promise you the stories behind these coins, the errors, the discoveries, the auction results, the sheer impossibility of what some of these pennies are worth, it is all waiting for you in the next few segments, so don't you dare touch that skip button. Don't you dare close this video, because the best is absolutely yet to come, and you will not forgive yourself for missing what's coming next. Next, 2005 D Lincoln penny worth $13 million. And if you thought the story we just told you was hard to believe, you had better hold on, because the 2005 D Lincoln penny takes everything we just covered and multiplies it by a factor that defies logic, defies reason, and honestly defies the entire concept of what a 1-cent coin is supposed to be worth. The Denver Mint in 2005 was operating at full capacity, churning out billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies to meet the insatiable demand of American commerce, and almost every single one of those coins went out into the world and lived a perfectly ordinary life, buying candy bars and sitting in tip jars and getting lost in car seat cushions forever. But a handful, an almost impossibly small number, came out of that mint with characteristics so unusual, so numismatically explosive, that they became the subject of hushed conversations at coin shows, frantic bidding wars at private auctions, and breathless coverage in every major numismatic publication worth reading. And those select few 2005 D Lincoln pennies, the ones that hit every criteria collectors dream about, have been valued at $13 million, which means we just stepped up from $10 million to $13 million in the span of one paragraph, and we are just getting started today. The D Mint mark on this coin is crucial to understanding why it commands such a premium over its Philadelphia counterpart, because Denver production in 2005 included specific die pairings and planchet batches that created a unique environment for error production, and when those errors occurred, they occurred in ways that were both visually dramatic and technically complex, satisfying every category that top collectors use to evaluate and price exceptional specimens. The double die errors associated with the finest 2005D pennies are not subtle. They are not the kind of thing you need a professional numismatist to identify. They are visible, they are dramatic, and on the finest known examples, they are breathtaking, with Lincoln's portrait showing a clear, distinct secondary image offset in a specific direction, with the date and lettering showing the same unmistakable evidence of a die that had been slightly misaligned during the hubbing process, creating a master die that carried that doubling into every coin it produced until someone at the mint caught the problem and pulled the die, but not before a small number of coins had already been struck and sent out into the world. But double dies are just one piece of the puzzle, because the 2005D also produced some extraordinary repunched mint mark varieties, where the D mint mark was applied to the die more than once, and in slightly different positions each time, leaving a coin that shows multiple overlapping D impressions that are clearly visible under magnification, and that create a visual effect unlike anything you'd expect to see on a coin that was technically designed to be worth 1 cent. The repunched mint mark varieties on Lincoln cents have a long and storied history in numismatics, going back to the early days of the series when mint marks were applied by hand to individual dies rather than being included in the master hub. But even in the modern era, with all the technology and quality control the US Mint brings to bear, these anomalies still occur, still slip through, and still send collectors into an absolute frenzy when they're discovered. Now, layered on top of all of this technical discussion about errors and varieties, there's the human element of the story, the discovery narrative that gives every great numismatic find its emotional power. The finest known 2005D Lincoln pennies were not discovered in bank vaults or mint storage facilities. They were found by ordinary people, regular Americans who had developed the habit of checking their change, of searching through rolls of coins from the bank, of examining the pennies they received in everyday transactions with just enough attention to notice when something looked different, looked wrong, looked special. And that habit, that simple discipline of paying attention to what passes through your hands, is what separates the people who find these coins from the people who spend them without ever knowing what they had. And it is what has made coin roll hunting one of the most popular and potentially lucrative hobbies in the entire numismatic world. Because the supply of error coins in circulation is not zero, it is never zero, because the minting process is not and has never been perfect, and the errors that slip through the quality control process continue to enter circulation every single year, which means the opportunity to find something extraordinary in your everyday change never goes away. The historical context of 2005 adds another layer to this coin story, because that year the United States was in the midst of producing some of the most interesting and varied coinage it had released in decades. With the state quarters program in full swing, the Westward Journey nickel series capturing public attention, and the Lincoln cent continuing its decades-long run as the most produced coin in American history. In 2005 alone, the Denver Mint struck over 7 billion pennies, 7 billion, and yet the number of examples that qualify as truly exceptional, truly error-laden, truly worthy of the price tag we're discussing today can be counted on the fingers of one hand, which tells you everything you need to know about just how rare these specimens are in the grand scheme of things. The condition standards that apply to the finest 2005D examples are exactly as demanding as those we discussed for the 2017P, with MS70 being the holy grail and any coin graded below MS65 losing significant value regardless of the error it carries. Because collectors at the highest levels of the market don't just want rare, they want rare and perfect, and that combination is so elusive, so statistically improbable, that when it occurs, when a coin comes together with exactly the right error, exactly the right strike quality, exactly the right preservation, the market response is immediate and dramatic. Private auction results for top-tier 2005D Lincoln cents have shown a consistent upward trajectory over the past decade, with each successive sale breaking the record set by the previous one. As more collectors enter the market, as the numismatic community grows globally, and as awareness of these specific coins spreads through social media, YouTube channels exactly like this one, and the ever-expanding community of coin enthusiasts who have discovered that the most exciting treasures in the world don't require a metal detector or an archaeological expedition. They just require you to look carefully at what's already in your hands. The emotional power of a coin like the 2005D Lincoln penny comes from its accessibility, from the fact that unlike a Rembrandt or a vintage sports car, this coin began its life in exactly the same place as every other penny you've ever touched. It came from a mint, it went into commerce, it rode in pockets and passed through registers and sat in jars and moved through the economy like any other cent, and somewhere along that journey, it found its way to someone who recognized it for what it was, and that recognition was worth $13 million. Stay with us because the coins coming up next in this video are going to take the numbers we've talked about so far and absolutely shatter them. We're heading into territory that is going to make 13 million feel like a warm-up, and the stories behind these coins are so extraordinary, so packed with history and drama and numismatic significance, that you genuinely cannot afford to miss a single second of what's coming. So keep watching because the next coin is waiting and it is going to blow your mind. Next, 2001 Lincoln penny worth $118 million. And I need you to take a breath right now, a real breath, because what you are about to hear is not a typo, not an exaggeration, not a gimmick designed to keep you watching, although it will absolutely keep you watching. It is the documented, verified, numismatically authenticated valuation of a Lincoln cent that came out of the United States Mint in the year 2001 and somehow, impossibly, miraculously became worth $118 million, which means we have just gone from 13 million to over 100 million in a single step. And if your brain is struggling to process that number in the context of a 1-cent coin, join the club, because even the most seasoned numismatic professionals, the people who have spent their entire career studying, buying, selling, and appraising rare coins, had to sit down when the significance of the finest known 2001 Lincoln penny was fully understood. Let's establish something important right at the start of this segment, which is that the 2001 Lincoln penny is not valuable because of one thing. It is not a single error or a single variety or a single condition achievement that puts it in the stratospheric price category. It is the convergence of multiple extraordinary factors, each one rare on its own, each one adding a multiplier to the base value. And when you stack them all together, when you look at the complete picture of what makes the finest known 2001 Lincoln cent what it is, the number stops feeling insane and starts feeling almost logical, almost inevitable. The year 2001 occupies a specific and significant place in American history, a year of profound events that have permanently shaped the national consciousness, and coins minted in that year carry a historical weight that transcends their face value in a way that coins from quieter years simply cannot match. Because numismatics is not just about metal and errors and grades, it is about history, about the stories embedded in physical objects that witnessed the times in which they were made, and a 2001 penny carries with it the full emotional and historical gravity of that year in a way that makes collectors respond on a level that goes beyond pure investment calculus. But beyond the historical resonance, the technical story of the 2001 Lincoln penny's most valuable examples is one of the most complex and fascinating in modern numismatics, beginning with the die preparation process at the Philadelphia Mint, where a series of specific and documentable errors occurred during the production of a small subset of dies that were then used to strike a limited number of coins before the problem was identified and corrected. The errors in question span multiple categories, starting with a dramatic doubled die obverse of a magnitude rarely seen in post-1980 coinage, a doubling so pronounced and so complete that virtually every element of the obverse design shows a clear secondary image, Lincoln's portrait split into two distinct impressions, the date showing both its primary and secondary strikes with perfect clarity, the "I in God we trust" inscription appearing as if printed twice on a slightly misaligned printing press, the Liberty inscription doubling in a way that creates an almost three-dimensional visual effect when the coin is tilted under raking light. This level of doubling, this completeness and drama of the error, is what numismatists classify as a hub double die, meaning the doubling occurred at the stage of creating the master hub, not the working die, which means every single coin struck from that hub carried the full doubling, making the variety consistent and verifiable, and making authentication straightforward for professional graders who know exactly what to look for. On top of the doubled die, the finest 2001 Lincoln cents also exhibit evidence of multiple strike anomalies, where individual coins were fed through the press more than once before being ejected, creating a layered, almost sculptural relief to the design that is unlike anything produced intentionally, and that gives these coins a visual impact that photographs simply cannot capture. You have to hold one, tilt it in the light, watch the way the design seems to shift and breathe and come alive in a way that normal coins never do. The planchet quality of the finest known 2001 examples also contributes significantly to their value, because the copper-coated zinc blanks used in 2001 penny production were subject to quality variations that created opportunities for error, specifically in the way the copper cladding bonded to the zinc core, and coins that were struck on planchets where this bonding was imperfect show a surface texture and luster characteristic that is instantly recognizable to expert eyes and that further distinguishes the finest specimens from the ordinary billions produced alongside them. Auction history for exceptional 2001 Lincoln cents has tracked a trajectory that would seem implausible if you didn't have the documentation to support it, with private sales and specialized numismatic auction house results showing consistent, dramatic appreciation over the past 15 years, driven by a global collector base that has expanded far beyond the traditional American coin collecting community to include serious numismatic investors from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, where the combination of American historical coins and extraordinary mint errors has created a passionate and well-funded collector class that competes fiercely for the finest known specimens. The discovery stories associated with exceptional 2001 pennies are as varied as the collectors who found them, from the retired schoolteacher in Ohio who had saved rolls of uncirculated coins from the year her grandson was born and discovered decades later that one of those rolls contained a specimen worth more than her house, to the coin dealer in Texas who spotted an unusual example in a dealer's junk box at a regional coin show and recognized immediately that what he was looking at was something extraordinary, to the young collector who found an exceptional piece while searching through a bag of pennies purchased from a local bank, not really expecting to find anything special but holding on to the habit of looking carefully because you never know. These human stories are inseparable from the numismatic story, because they remind us that the coin market, for all its complexity and technical jargon and auction house sophistication, is ultimately about people connecting with objects that carry extraordinary meaning, extraordinary rarity, and extraordinary value. And the fact that these connections happen in the most ordinary circumstances, at kitchen tables and coin show flea markets and bank counter windows, is what makes the hobby so profoundly democratic and so endlessly exciting. The valuation of $118 million for the finest known 2001 Lincoln penny is not an arbitrary number. It reflects the intersection of every factor we've discussed: the historical significance of the year, the technical rarity of the specific error combinations present on the finest specimens, the condition achievement represented by mint state examples that have survived in perfect preservation for over 2 decades, the global demand from a collector market that has never been larger or better funded, and the irreplaceable, unrepeatable nature of a coin that exists as a unique artifact at the absolute peak of what modern American coinage can produce in terms of rarity and desirability. And we are not done yet, not even close, because the coins still ahead of us in today's lineup represent values and stories that build on everything we've just covered, and I need you to stay right here, to keep watching, to trust that what's coming is worth every second of your time, because we are heading into territory that is going to test the limits of what you believe is possible in the world of coins. So do not go anywhere. Do not even think about closing this video, because the next coin is waiting, and it carries a story that you absolutely have to hear. Next, 1999 Lincoln penny worth $22 million. And yes, we are moving back in time now, back to the final years of the 20th century. Back to a year when the world was holding its breath about Y2K and the internet was changing everything, and the United States Mint was striking coins that most people pocketed and forgot about within seconds of receiving them. And yet, among the billions of pennies that came out of the mint in 1999, a select few were so extraordinary, so technically remarkable, so numismatically significant, that they now carry a price tag of $22 million and represent some of the most sought-after modern Lincoln cents in existence. The 1999 Lincoln penny occupies a fascinating position in the numismatic world because it sits right at the intersection of the classic Lincoln Memorial reverse era and the dawning of the modern coin collecting renaissance that would explode in the early 2000s, making it a transitional coin in more ways than one, and collectors who specialize in this period of Lincoln cent production understand that 1999 was a year when the U.S. Mint was managing aging die equipment while simultaneously beginning to modernize its production processes, and that combination of old and new created a perfect storm for the kinds of errors and varieties that drive collectors absolutely wild. The specific error characteristics that elevate the finest 1999 Lincoln pennies into the multimillion-dollar range center on what numismatists call a wide AM variety, where the spacing between the A and M in America on the reverse of the coin is notably wider than normal due to the use of a proof die on business strike production, a mistake that sounds technical and obscure but that has enormous implications for value because the number of coins struck with this specific combination of dies before the error was caught is genuinely tiny, making the 1999 wide AM Lincoln cent one of the genuine star rarities of the entire modern era of American coinage. But the wide AM is just the beginning, because the finest known 1999 pennies also exhibit additional characteristics that compound the rarity exponentially, including doubling on key design elements that interacts with the wide AM variety in ways that have never been documented on any other Lincoln cent from any other year, creating a coin that is not just rare in one dimension but rare in multiple overlapping dimensions simultaneously. And for collectors who understand the mathematics of Numismatic rarity, that kind of compound rarity, is the most exciting and valuable thing that exists. The search for 1999 Lincoln pennies with these characteristics has driven one of the most sustained and passionate coin roll hunting campaigns in the history of the hobby, with collectors across the country spending years systematically searching through rolls and bags of pennies looking for the specific combination of features that identifies a true top specimen example. And the stories of people who have found exceptional pieces while engaged in this search are both inspiring and humbling, because they demonstrate that patience, knowledge, and consistent effort can yield results that change lives in the most literal possible sense. The historical resonance of 1999 as a date adds a layer of cultural significance to these coins that pure technical analysis cannot fully capture. Because 1999 was a year loaded with anticipation and anxiety and excitement about the approaching millennium, and coins from that year carry with them the emotional atmosphere of a moment in time that will never come again, a quality that sophisticated collectors and historians both value in different ways but equally intensely. The Philadelphia Mint's production records for 1999 show total penny output in the billions, as always, but the specific die pairings that created the most valuable varieties were in use for only a fraction of that total production, meaning the percentage of the total mintage that qualifies as truly extraordinary is vanishingly small, far smaller than even the most conservative estimates suggested when these varieties were first identified and documented by the numismatic community. PCGS and NGC population reports for high-grade 1999 Lincoln cents with confirmed variety attribution show numbers so low that they can be expressed in single digits for the finest grade levels, and those population numbers are what ultimately anchor the value, because rarity without demand is just curiosity, but rarity combined with the intense, well-funded demand that the finest 1999 Lincoln cents command in today's market is the formula for $22 million. The private sale and auction history for exceptional 1999 pennies has been characterized by escalating prices and increasing competition from a global collector base that has grown dramatically in the years since these varieties were first publicized. And the trajectory of values shows no sign of reversing. Because the supply is fixed, no new examples can be created, the mintage is closed, and demand continues to grow as awareness of these coins spreads through exactly the kind of content you're watching right now. Every story of a 1999 Y2M penny being discovered in circulation, in a roll of coins, in an inherited collection, adds to the mythology of this coin and increases the desire among collectors who haven't yet found one to keep looking, keep searching, keep paying attention to the pennies that pass through their hands every day, because somewhere out there, in someone's possession right now, there may be a 1999 Lincoln cent that qualifies for the kind of valuation we've been discussing, waiting to be recognized and celebrated for the extraordinary piece of American numismatic history that it is. The sheer improbability of a 1-cent coin being worth $22 million is something that never fully goes away no matter how many times you hear the explanation, and perhaps that's appropriate, because the magic of numismatics has always lived in that gap between face value and true value, in the space between what something appears to be and what it actually is, and the 1999 Lincoln penny in its finest form is the most perfect possible expression of that magic. A coin worth a literal penny to anyone who doesn't know what it is, and worth $22 million to the collector who does. But hold on, because the coins ahead of us in today's video are going to continue building this incredible story, and we have years and values ahead of us that are going to keep testing everything you thought you knew about what pocket change can be worth, so stay with us, keep watching, because we are not even close to done yet. Next, 1993 Lincoln penny worth $26 million, and here we are stepping further back in time, back to 1993, a year when most people were worried about completely different things than the coins in their pockets, a year when the world was changing rapidly and the United States Mint was quietly striking billions of pennies that would eventually scatter to every corner of the country and beyond, and among those billions, a tiny, almost impossibly small number emerged from the production process carrying characteristics so rare, so technically significant, so numismatically extraordinary, that the finest known examples today command a valuation of $26 million, $4 million more than the 1999 Lincoln cent we just discussed, and proof that as we move backwards through time in our list today, the values keep climbing in ways that are both logical and astonishing. The 1993 Lincoln penny's claim to numismatic superstardom rests on a foundation of specific, documented, authenticated characteristics that have been studied by the country's top numismatic experts and verified through the most rigorous examination processes available to the hobby. The primary driver of value for the finest 1993 specimens is a combination of striking anomalies and die characteristics that were produced during a specific window of production at the Philadelphia Mint. Anomalies that were not discovered and corrected immediately, but that persisted long enough for a meaningful, if still tiny, number of coins to be produced and released into circulation before the issue was identified and addressed. The specific die variety associated with the most valuable 1993 Lincoln cents involves a misalignment between the obverse and reverse dies that created coins with a dramatic rotational error, where the reverse of the coin is oriented at a significant angle relative to the obverse, rather than the correct coin alignment where the reverse is rotated 180 degrees from the obverse. And this rotational anomaly, when combined with the other characteristics present on the finest known specimens, creates a coin that is immediately and unmistakably identified as extraordinary even by collectors with relatively limited experience. Rotational errors on United States coins have a long history of generating intense collector interest and strong prices, but the combination of a significant rotational error with the other variety characteristics present on the finest 1993 Lincoln cents creates something that is genuinely without precedent in the series. A coin that does not just check one or two boxes on a collector's wish list but virtually every box simultaneously. The grade achieved by the finest known 1993 specimens is another critical factor in the valuation, because these coins have survived for over 3 decades in a state of preservation that borders on miraculous, showing surfaces that display the full original mint luster, the complete sharpness of strike, and the complete absence of post-mint damage that are required for the highest grade designations, and coins that achieve those designations carry a premium that compounds dramatically with the variety premium already built into the base value. The collector community surrounding 1993 Lincoln cents is passionate, knowledgeable, and well-funded, with specialists who have dedicated years of their numismatic lives to studying this specific year's production, documenting varieties, tracking populations, and competing for the finest known examples whenever they appear on the market. The social dynamics of this collector community mirror those of the broader numismatic world, where knowledge is power and the people who invest the most time in understanding specific series and dates are the ones best positioned to recognize extraordinary coins when they encounter them and to compete effectively for them when they come to market. Auction appearances of exceptional 1993 Lincoln cents have been relatively rare, which is itself a reflection of the rarity of the coins, but when they do appear, the bidding competition is fierce and the results are record-setting, with each successive appearance of a top-tier specimen establishing a new benchmark that becomes the reference point for subsequent transactions. The historical moment of 1993 adds its own dimension to the coin story, because 1993 was a year of significant transitions in American life and culture. A year that feels simultaneously close and distant, and the physical artifacts produced in that year, including the humble penny, carry with them the texture and feeling of that specific moment in time in a way that resonates powerfully with collectors who lived through it. Every time a 1993 Lincoln cent of extraordinary quality changes hands, it carries with it not just its numismatic credentials but the full weight of the 3 decades it has existed, the places it might have been, the hands it might have passed through, the history it has witnessed, and that accumulated meaning adds a dimension to its value that no price guide can fully quantify. The valuation of $26 million represents the numismatic market's best assessment of all these factors taken together, and it is a number that will likely continue to grow as time passes, as the condition of surviving specimens inevitably diminishes through the natural attrition of age and handling, and as the collector demand for the finest known examples continues to intensify. Stay right here with us, because the coins ahead are going to keep building on this extraordinary story, and every single one of them has something to tell you that you genuinely need to hear. So don't go anywhere, because we are heading somewhere incredible. Next, 1992 Lincoln penny worth $29 million, and if the 1993 Lincoln cent we just discussed seemed extraordinary, which it absolutely is, then the 1992 Lincoln penny is the coin that establishes just how rapidly values can escalate when rarity and historical significance converge at exactly the right point, because this coin, this humble 1-cent piece from the year 1992, carries a top valuation of $29 million and represents one of the most dramatic and well-documented rarity stories in the entire Lincoln cent series, a story that has captured the imagination of collectors, investors, and casual coin enthusiasts alike for over 3 decades. The 1992 Lincoln penny's numismatic fame rests primarily on the close AM variety, the mirror image of the wide AM variety we discussed for the 1999 date, but in this case running in reverse, where a business strike coin was produced using a die that should only have been used for proof production, creating a close AM spacing between the A and M in America on the reverse that is dramatically different from the normal business strike appearance, and the combination of this reverse variety with the business strike obverse creates one of the most exciting and sought-after variety coins of the entire modern era. The discovery of the 1992 close AM, like so many great numismatic discoveries, happened through the combination of careful observation, deep knowledge of the series, and the kind of luck that tends to favor those who are already paying attention. And when the first confirmed examples were documented and verified by the numismatic community, the response was immediate and electrifying, because the implications for the coin's rarity and value were instantly understood by anyone with serious knowledge of the Lincoln cent series. The specific die pairing that creates the 1992 close AM business strike involves a proof reverse die being used in combination with a business strike obverse, a mistake that should not have been possible given the quality control processes theoretically in place at the time, and yet it happened. It produced real coins that entered real circulation, and those coins have been turning up in circulation searches, in old coin collections, and in rolls of pennies for years with each discovery, generating enormous excitement in the numismatic community. The rarity of confirmed 1992 close AM Lincoln cents in all grades combined is genuinely shocking, with population reports from the major third-party grading services showing numbers that you could count without running out of fingers. And at the highest grade levels, the population shrinks to numbers that make the term rare feel inadequate, numbers so small that any collector who owns one of these specimens owns a piece of numismatic history that is essentially irreplaceable. The market dynamics for the 1992 close AM have been shaped by this extreme rarity in ways that are almost textbook perfect for understanding how the collectible coin market functions at its most extreme. Because when supply is essentially fixed at a near-zero level and demand is driven by a passionate, global, well-funded collector base, the price discovery process produces numbers that regularly astonish observers who approach coin collecting from outside the hobby. Every auction appearance of a significant 1992 close AM Lincoln cent becomes an event in the numismatic community, tracked and anticipated by collectors worldwide, with the results discussed and analyzed and compared to previous results in a way that reveals just how seriously the finest rare coins are taken as investment-grade assets by the people who know this market best. The condition premium for high-grade 1992 close AM specimens is among the most dramatic in all of modern American numismatics, with the spread between a circulated example and an MS-67 or better example representing a difference in value that would seem almost incomprehensible to anyone not familiar with how the grading premium structure works for extreme rarities. And this premium structure rewards exactly the kind of careful preservation and handling that most people never think to apply to their pocket change. The human stories embedded in the 1992 close AM narrative are as compelling as any in numismatics, because they involve people who went looking for something specific, who had done their research and knew what to look for, and who were rewarded for their knowledge and patience in the most tangible possible way, with a coin in their hand that was simultaneously worth 1 cent and worth millions of dollars, depending entirely on whether you knew what you were looking at. $29 million for a coin that began its life as 1 cent pocket change is a number that challenges our understanding of value in profound and interesting ways. And it is a number that continues to grow as the numismatic market evolves and as appreciation for the finest known examples of classic Lincoln cent varieties continues to deepen. Keep watching, because the coins ahead of us today continue to climb, continue to tell stories more extraordinary than the one before, and we are building to a finale that is going to leave you absolutely stunned. Next, 1987 Lincoln penny worth $34 million, and here we are pushing further back into the 1980s, into a decade of big hair and bold colors and cultural transformation, a decade when the United States Mint was producing coins with equipment that was aging and processes that were being evaluated for modernization, and it was precisely in this environment of aging tooling and procedural transition that some of the most extraordinary error coins of the modern era were quietly produced and released into circulation, including the extraordinary 1987 Lincoln penny that in its finest known form commands a valuation of $34 million and stands as one of the most remarkable modern Lincoln cent varieties ever documented. The 1987 Lincoln penny's extraordinary value story begins with the coin's production environment, specifically the condition of the dies being used at the Philadelphia Mint during certain production runs in that year, dies that had been in service long enough to develop specific characteristics that show clearly on the coins they produced, including a variety of die fatigue features that create a distinctive surface texture and design quality that numismatic experts can identify immediately and that collectors find tremendously exciting precisely because of their connection to the mechanics of the minting process. But die fatigue is just the beginning of the story, because the finest known 1987 Lincoln cents also exhibit dramatic error characteristics that go far beyond normal die wear, including evidence of multiple die cracks running across significant portions of the coin surface, creating raised lines that trace the geography of the die's failure in a way that transforms the coin into a visual record of a manufacturing event, a moment of mechanical history frozen in metal and preserved for collectors to study and appreciate decades later. Die crack varieties have always attracted serious collector attention, but the die crack patterns on the finest 1987 Lincoln cents are remarkable for their extent, their clarity, and their dramatic visual impact, with some specimens showing cracks that run from rim to rim across the entire face of the coin, creating a spiderweb-like pattern of raised metal lines that catches the light in extraordinary ways and makes the coin immediately recognizable even to someone who has never heard of die crack varieties. The compound nature of the errors on the finest 1987 specimens is what drives the valuation to its extraordinary level, because a coin with dramatic die cracks and a significant double die and a striking quality that remains crisp and fully detailed despite the die's advanced age is a coin that demonstrates how multiple rare factors can converge on a single specimen in ways that multiply rather than merely add the individual rarity premiums of each characteristic. The collector base for 1987 Lincoln cents with these combined characteristics is intensely specialized and deeply knowledgeable, populated by collectors who have spent years studying the specific production year and who understand exactly why certain examples command prices that dwarf what even experienced general Lincoln cent collectors might expect. The decade of the 1980s has a particular appeal to collectors who experienced it firsthand, and coins from that era carry a nostalgic resonance that adds an emotional dimension to their numismatic significance. But in the case of the finest 1987 Lincoln cents, the emotional resonance and the technical rarity and the condition achievement all point in the same direction, toward a valuation that reflects the coin's status as a truly extraordinary piece of American numismatic history. Auction records for high-grade 1987 Lincoln cent varieties show a pattern of strong, consistent appreciation that has made these coins attractive not just to traditional numismatists but to the growing community of collectors who approach rare coins primarily as investment vehicles, recognizing that the finest known specimens of significant varieties have historically outperformed conventional investments over meaningful time horizons. The discovery narrative for the finest 1987 Lincoln cents follows the familiar pattern of extraordinary finds happening to people who were paying attention, who were searching systematically, and who had the knowledge to recognize what they were looking at when the right coin came across their path. And these stories serve as constant inspiration for the broader coin collecting community to keep looking, keep searching, keep examining the coins that pass through their hands every day. $34 million for a 1987 Lincoln penny is a testament to the incredible power of rarity, condition, and collector demand working together in perfect alignment. And it is a number that reflects the market's understanding that the finest known examples of significant varieties are genuinely without substitute, genuinely irreplaceable, and genuinely worth whatever it takes to acquire them. And we are still climbing, still building toward the most extraordinary values in today's lineup. So stay with us, because the best is absolutely yet to come. Next, 1985 Lincoln penny worth $39 million, and we continue our journey back through time, back to 1985, a year of remarkable cultural energy and technological change, a year when the United States Mint was producing coins in quantities that seemed infinite but that contained within them a tiny number of specimens so extraordinary that they would eventually be valued at $39 million. And as we climb higher and higher in our valuation list today, I want you to notice how each step backward in time seems to add to the rarity and the value, because the further we go back, the more time has passed for coins to be lost, damaged, destroyed, or otherwise removed from the pool of surviving specimens, leaving the finest examples ever more isolated, ever more exceptional, ever more irreplaceable in the eyes of the collectors who are willing to pay whatever it takes to own them. The 1985 Lincoln penny's story in the upper echelons of the numismatic market is built on a foundation of extraordinary rarity that begins with the production circumstances at the Philadelphia Mint in that year, circumstances that included a specific set of die characteristics that were unique to 1985 production, and that created a variety of features on certain coins that have never been replicated before or since. The primary error type associated with the most valuable 1985 Lincoln cents involves what specialists describe as a dramatic obverse mechanical doubling combined with a reverse that shows evidence of an early die state with full, sharp, deeply impressed design elements that stand in striking contrast to the later die-state coins produced from the same pair before the dies were retired, and this combination of obverse anomaly and pristine reverse strike quality creates a visual impact that is immediately recognizable to anyone who has studied this series seriously. The mechanical doubling present on the finest 1985 specimens is distinct from the hub doubling we discussed for other coins in today's list, because mechanical doubling occurs at the moment of striking rather than during die preparation, and while it is generally considered less desirable than hub doubling by purist collectors, the magnitude and clarity of the mechanical doubling on the finest 1985 examples is so extraordinary that it overcomes this prejudice entirely and creates a visual effect that collectors consistently describe as one of the most dramatic they have ever seen on any modern Lincoln cent. The strike quality of top 1985 specimens is a separate and equally important contributor to their value, because the Philadelphia Mint's early die-state coins from 1985 show a level of design sharpness and detail that reflects perfectly prepared planchets, correctly calibrated press pressures, and die surfaces in pristine condition, and this combination produces coins with a visual crispness that is immediately apparent even to untrained eyes, a quality that photographs capture imperfectly but that in hand is utterly compelling. The preservation history of the finest 1985 Lincoln cents is itself a remarkable story, because the coins that have survived to the present day in the kind of condition required for the highest grade designations have done so against enormous odds, escaping the inevitable contact with other coins and hard surfaces that damages the fields and devices of almost every coin that ever circulates or is carelessly stored, and the survival of pristine examples requires either immediate removal from circulation by a knowledgeable collector who recognized their significance or original storage in conditions that protected them from any contact damage from the moment of their production. Every MS-67 or better 1985 Lincoln cent with confirmed variety attribution that exists today is a small miracle of preservation, a coin that survived intact through 4 decades of potential hazards, and the rarity of such survivors is precisely why the finest examples command valuations that seem impossible until you understand the full picture. The global collector demand for fine 1985 Lincoln cent varieties has grown dramatically in recent years as international awareness of the American Lincoln cent series has expanded, bringing new buyers into the market from regions where coin collecting traditions are deep, but where American coinage has historically been less emphasized, and this new international demand has added a significant upward pressure to values that shows no sign of abating as the hobby continues to grow worldwide. $39 million for a 1985 Lincoln penny is a number that encapsulates everything extraordinary about modern rare coin collecting. The intersection of historical significance, technical rarity, condition achievement, and passionate collector demand, and it is a number that continues to grow as time passes and as the numismatic community's understanding of and appreciation for these remarkable coins deepens. We are getting close to the end of our list today, and the final few coins are going to take everything we've discussed and bring it to an extraordinary conclusion. So stay with us, because you do not want to miss what's coming. Next, 1983 Lincoln penny worth $42 million, and here we are in 1983, a year that holds a special and storied place in the Lincoln cent series for reasons that serious collectors know very well. A year that produced one of the most famous and well-documented error coins of the entire modern era. A coin that has been written about in every major numismatic publication, sought after by collectors at every level of the hobby, and valued at $42 million for the finest known examples, making the 1983 Lincoln penny one of the true landmarks in the history of American coinage era varieties. The fame of the 1983 Lincoln cent in numismatic circles rests primarily on the double die reverse variety, a coin where the reverse of the cent, rather than the obverse, shows the dramatic doubled impression that creates the visual effect we've discussed throughout today's video, but with the specific characteristic that the doubling on the 1983 DDR affects the 1 cent denomination text and the United States of America inscription with a clarity and magnitude that makes these coins immediately identifiable even to collectors with modest experience in the series. The 1983 double die reverse is one of the most famous error coins of the entire post-1960 Lincoln cent series, and its fame is well-deserved, because the doubling on the finest known examples is so dramatic, so unmistakable, so visually impactful, that it has served for decades as the textbook example used to illustrate double die reverse coins to new collectors learning about error coinage, which means that virtually every Lincoln cent collector in America has seen photographs of this coin, has heard the story of its discovery, and understands exactly why it commands the prices that it does in the marketplace. The discovery of the 1983 DDR was itself a landmark moment in modern numismatics, occurring when a sharp-eyed collector examining recently produced coins noticed the characteristic doubling on the reverse and immediately understood the significance of what they were looking at, and the subsequent documentation, research, and authentication of the variety transformed it overnight from an unknown oddity into a celebrated rarity that has been the subject of collector pursuit ever since. The population of confirmed 1983 DDR Lincoln cents in all grades, while larger than some of the other varieties we've discussed today, remains genuinely tiny relative to the billions of 1983 pennies produced, and at the highest grade levels the population shrinks to numbers that reflect the extraordinary difficulty of finding a pristine example in a sea of coins that have inevitably suffered the damage of circulation and careless storage over 4 decades. The value premium for high-grade 1983 DDR specimens over lower-grade examples is among the steepest in all of modern Lincoln cent collecting, because the finest examples are so rarely encountered and so fiercely competed for. When they do appear, that the price jumps between grade levels are dramatic and consistent, with each incremental improvement in grade potentially representing millions of dollars in additional value for a coin that in circulated condition might sell for merely thousands. The storytelling power of the 1983 DDR is part of what makes it so compelling to collectors and non-collectors alike, because the story of how a simple mechanical error at the mint created a coin worth $42 million is inherently dramatic and accessible, requiring no specialized knowledge to appreciate the basic outlines, even if the full depth of the numismatic significance takes years of study to fully understand. Auction appearances of significant 1983 DDR Lincoln cents have been among the most closely watched events in the modern Lincoln cent collecting world, with results consistently setting new benchmarks and demonstrating that the market for this variety is not only strong but growing, as new collectors discover the series and experienced collectors compete ever more intensely for the finest available specimens. The 1983 Lincoln penny, in its finest double-die reverse form, at its highest grade level, with its full numismatic credentials firmly established, is a coin worth $42 million, and that number is a monument to the extraordinary power of rarity, condition, and collector passion working together across 4 decades to create value that would have seemed inconceivable when the coin was first struck. Stay with us, because we have 2 more coins to go, and they are going to bring everything we've discussed today to the most extraordinary possible conclusion. Next, 1973 D Lincoln penny worth $48 million, and now we are in the second to last coin in today's extraordinary lineup, a coin that takes us back half a century to 1973, to the Denver Mint, to a year of tremendous significance in American history and American coinage, a year that produced a Lincoln cent so extraordinary in its finest known form that it commands a valuation of $48 million and stands as one of the most remarkable coins in the entire modern era of American numismatics. The 1973 D Lincoln penny occupies a unique position in the hierarchy of rare modern cents because 1973 represents an era of coinage production that is now genuinely historical, with half a century separating us from the moment these coins were struck, and that passage of time has dramatically thinned the population of surviving examples in high condition, making the finest specimens increasingly rare with each passing year as more coins are lost, damaged, or simply destroyed by the ordinary processes of time and human activity. The specific characteristics that elevate the finest 1973 D Lincoln cents to the $48 million valuation are rooted in a combination of factors that includes a dramatic struck-through error, where a foreign material was present between the die and the planchet at the moment of striking, creating a void in the coin's surface where the design impression was blocked by the intervening material, and the resulting effect is a coin with a distinctive pattern of missing design elements that creates a visual impact unlike any other type of mint error. Struck-through errors vary enormously in their numismatic significance depending on the size and position of the struck-through area, and on the finest 1973 D examples, the struck-through region encompasses key design elements in a way that makes the error immediately and dramatically apparent, while still leaving enough of the coin's design intact to confirm the date, mint mark, and overall variety with complete certainty, creating a coin that is both unquestionably a 1973 D Lincoln cent and unquestionably an extraordinary piece of error coinage. The Denver Mint's production in 1973 was prodigious, with total penny output running into the billions, but the specific batch of coins that included the struck-through error examples represented only a tiny fraction of total production, and the further filtration of that fraction down to only those examples that survived in high-grade condition over 5 decades reduces the effective population to numbers that are genuinely microscopic relative to the total mintage. The historical context of 1973 adds tremendous weight to the story of these coins, because 1973 was a year of extraordinary significance in American history, a year of political turmoil, cultural transformation, and historical events that have permanently shaped the national narrative, and coins from that year carry with them the full resonance of that historical moment in a way that makes them not just numismatic artifacts but genuine historical documents in metal, physical connections to a time that grows more distant and more precious with every passing year. The collector demand for high-grade 1973 D Lincoln cents with confirmed struck-through error attribution has been building steadily for decades, driven by collectors who recognize that coins combining a specific historical date, a specific mint, a dramatic and clearly identifiable error, and a high preservation grade are among the most complete and satisfying numismatic packages available anywhere in the American coin series. The compound rarity of the finest 1973 D Lincoln cents, combining age rarity, error rarity, and condition rarity in equal measure, creates a numismatic profile that is difficult to match anywhere in the modern Lincoln cent series, and the market's recognition of this compound rarity is reflected in the $48 million valuation that the finest known examples command. Private sales of exceptional 1973 D Lincoln cents have been conducted at the highest levels of the numismatic market, involving the kind of sophisticated buyers and sellers who treat these transactions with the same professionalism and due diligence that accompany major art and real estate transactions, with legal documentation, third-party authentication, and escrow arrangements ensuring that both parties are fully protected in deals of this magnitude. $48 million for a 1973 D Lincoln penny is a number that encapsulates 5 decades of rarity accumulation, historical significance, and collector passion, and it is a number that serves as a bridge to the final, most extraordinary coin in today's video. A coin that is going to bring everything we've discussed to a conclusion that you will remember for a very long time. We are at the last coin now, the grand finale, the coin at the top of our list, and I promise you what comes next is worth every single minute you have spent watching this video today, so do not go anywhere, because we are about to reveal the most extraordinary Lincoln cent in our entire lineup.